Lieutenant Commander had a problem. Her name was Princess of the Imperium, and she was the most beautiful creature he had ever seen. She stood 5 feet and 8 inches tall. Her fur was the color of violets in spring. Her eyes were golden like the sun setting over Earth's oceans. When she walked, her long tail swayed behind her like a dancer moving to music only she could hear. And for reasons could not understand, she seemed very interested in him. This was a disaster. Was a human, just a simple engineer working on the diplomatic space station called Threshold. He fixed broken machines. He made sure the air systems worked properly. He crawled through maintenance tunnels and got his uniform dirty with oil and coolant. He was nobody important. They were one of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. They had controlled 63 star systems for thousands of years. Their empire was vast. Their technology was advanced. Their noble families traced their bloodlines back to a time when humans were still living in caves and hitting rocks together. Humans had only been in space for 40 years. 40 years since a scout ship had found Earth and been very surprised to discover intelligent life there. Most alien species still thought of humans as clever animals who had somehow learned to build spaceships. Amusing, interesting, but certainly not equals. For a princess to show interest in a human engineer would be like a queen falling in love with a farm animal. The scandal would be enormous. The diplomatic problems would be endless. Was sure that if he let anything happen between them, it would hurt relations between their species for decades. So he ran away, every single time. It had started 3 months ago when first arrived at the station. Had been fixing a broken door panel when she walked past. Their eyes met. She smiled at him. His heart did something strange in his chest. That night she sent him a message inviting him to dinner. He politely declined, saying he had too much work. The next week, she appeared in the engineering section. She said she wanted to learn about human technology. She stood very close to him while he explained how the power systems worked. Her tail kept brushing against his arm. He excused himself after 10 minutes, claiming there was an emergency on Deck 7. There was no emergency on Deck 7. As the weeks passed, became less subtle. She would wait for him in corridors. She would sit next to him in the cafeteria. She would find excuses to visit whatever section of the station he was working in, and became better and better at escaping. He learned which maintenance shafts led to which decks. He memorized her schedule so he could avoid being in the same places at the same times. Once, when he saw her approaching in a hallway, he opened a random door and hid inside a storage closet for 20 minutes. His fellow humans thought he was insane. "She's a princess," his friend David said one evening. "A beautiful alien princess is chasing you around the station and you're hiding in closets. What is wrong with you?" "You don't understand," replied. "If anything happened between us, it would be a diplomatic incident. Her family would be angry. My commanders would be angry. It could damage everything humanity has worked for in the last 40 years. Or, David said, it could be the greatest thing that ever happened to human relations. A real connection between our species. Love across the stars. Very romantic." Shook his head. "I'm not going to risk everything because a princess thinks I'm an interesting pet." But that was not entirely true, and knew it. The real reason he ran was simpler and more painful. He was afraid of how much he wanted her. Every time he saw her, his heart beat faster. Every time she smiled at him, he forgot how to breathe. Every time her tail touched his arm, his skin tingled for hours afterward. He had never felt this way about anyone before, human or alien. And that terrified him, because knew he was not worthy of her. He was nobody. A maintenance worker, a man who fixed broken machines on a space station far from home. He had no wealth, no status, no family name that anyone would recognize. By every measure that mattered in the galaxy, he was nothing. Deserved better. She deserved a prince from a powerful family. She deserved someone who could stand beside her as an equal. She deserved someone who would not embarrass her in front of her people. So ran, not because he did not care about her, but because he cared too much. What did not know was that had grown tired of chasing him. In her quarters on the station, the princess sat before a communication screen. The face looking back at her was older, wiser, and far more intimidating. Silver-white fur, golden eyes that had seen empires rise and fall, a crown of twisted dark metal resting on her head. Empress the Eternal, ruler of 63 star systems, commander of the largest fleet in the known galaxy, and's mother. He ran away again, said. Her ears were flat against her head with frustration. I tried to invite him to the observation deck to watch the nebula. He said he had to recalibrate some sensors. That is not even a real thing. I asked the station's chief engineer. She laughed at me. The Empress was silent for a long moment. Her expression was unreadable. You are certain about this human? She asked finally. There are many suitable mates among our own kind, princes from great houses, warriors with honored names. You could have any of them. I do not want any of them, said. I want him. There is something different about him, mother, something special. I have watched him work. He is clever and kind and brave. He does not try to impress anyone. He just does what needs to be done. And when he looks at me, she paused, struggling to find the words. When he looks at me, I feel like I matter, not because I am a princess, but because I am me. The Empress considered this for a long time. Then, slowly, she smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator who had spotted interesting prey. Very well, she said. If this human will not come to you, then he will come to me. I will be at the station within the week, and we will have a conversation. His eyes went wide. Mother, you cannot just summon him like a servant. He will be terrified. Good, the Empress replied. Fear is an excellent way to see what someone is truly made of. The communication ended. Stared at the blank screen, wondering if she had just saved her relationship or destroyed it completely. A week later, was pulled out of a coolant manifold by two very large, very unfriendly Imperial guards. His running was about to end. The Imperial guards were enormous. Each one stood over 7 feet tall, with dark fur and muscles that looked like they could crush metal. They wore ceremonial armor made of some black material that seemed to swallow light. Their faces showed no emotion at all. Had his arms deep inside a coolant manifold when they found him. He was covered in blue fluid that smelled like chemicals. His uniform was stained and wrinkled. He had not slept properly in 2 days because of a problem with the station's water recycling system. This was not how he wanted to meet members of the Imperial Guard. Human, the larger guard said. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. Her eternal radiance commands your presence. You will come immediately. Felt his stomach drop. Her eternal radiance. That was the title used for the Empress of the Imperium, the most powerful person in 63 star systems, and she wanted to see him. He tried to think of a way out. I have a meeting in 1 hour with my commanding officer. Perhaps I could come after. Your meeting has been cancelled. I really should clean up first. I smell like coolant and I look. The Empress does not wait for hygiene. The guard's claws extended slightly from his fingers. They were very long and very sharp. You will come now. Came now. They marched him through the station like a prisoner. Other crew members stopped and stared as he passed. He saw humans and members of other species all watching with curiosity and fear. Being escorted by Imperial guards was never a good sign. Tried to think of what he had done wrong. Had someone seen him hiding from the princess? Was avoiding royalty a crime in the Imperium? Would he be executed for making feel rejected? His mind raced through possibilities, each one worse than the last. By the time they reached the doors to the throne room, he had convinced himself that he would not survive the next hour. The doors were massive, 3 stories tall, carved from dark wood that came from some planet had never heard of. The carvings showed warriors fighting great beasts, ships sailing through star fields, and emperors and empresses from ages past. Just the doors probably cost more than everything had ever owned combined. They opened without a sound. The throne room beyond was designed to make visitors feel small. It worked perfectly. Pillars of pale stone rose toward a ceiling that was lost in darkness far above. Purple flames burned in bronze bowls along the walls, casting strange shadows everywhere. The floor was polished so smooth that could see his reflection looking back at him, small and frightened. At the far end of the room, at least 100 meters away, was a throne made of black crystal, and on the throne sat the Eternal. She was smaller than had expected, perhaps 5 feet tall, maybe less. Her fur was silver white, the color of moonlight on snow. Her golden eyes glowed softly in the darkness. She wore robes of midnight blue decorated with silver thread that formed patterns too complex for to understand. On her head sat a crown of twisted metal that seemed to pull the light toward it and make it disappear. She was 300 years old, they said. She had ruled the Imperium for over 2 centuries. She had survived 17 assassination attempts, 3 civil wars, and 2 invasions by hostile alien species. And now she was staring directly at. He walked the endless distance to the throne. Each step echoed in the vast room. His legs felt weak. His heart was beating so fast he thought it might explode. When he reached the proper distance, he knelt on the cold floor. Protocol required this. Humans had learned quickly that they cared deeply about proper respect. "Rise, human." Her voice was soft but carried clearly through the room. Stood. His knees were shaking. For a long moment, the Empress simply looked at him. He felt like a specimen being examined under a microscope, like a small animal being studied by a very intelligent predator deciding whether to eat it. Then she spoke again. "My daughter tells me that she intends to mate with you." His brain stopped working, completely. For several seconds he could not form a single thought. "Your radiance, that is not, we have not." "She also tells me," the Empress continued calmly, "that you have been running away from her for 3 months. Movement at the edge of his vision, turned slightly and saw standing beside the throne. She was looking at the floor. Her ears were flat against her head. Her cheeks were darker than usual under her violet fur. She had told her mother. The princess of the Imperium had told her mother that a human engineer would not talk to her. Wanted to sink into the floor and disappear forever. "Your radiance," he managed to say. "I meant no disrespect. I only thought, the diplomatic problems, the political difficulties." "You thought you were protecting her." The Empress leaned forward slightly. "Protecting us from scandal." "Yes, your radiance." Stood, despite her small size, her presence seemed to fill the entire room. Power radiated from her like heat from a star. This was a being who had commanded fleets and destroyed enemies and shaped the fate of billions of lives. She descended the steps from her throne and walked toward. The guards tensed, ready to act if he made any threatening move, but could not have moved if his life depended on it. He was frozen in place. The Empress stopped directly in front of him. She was shorter than him, but he had never felt smaller in his entire life. "Tell me, human," she said, "what do you know of how my kind selects mates?" Forced his brain to work, to remember. Pair bonding is complex, your radiance. There are trials, tests of worthiness. The potential mate must prove themselves before the family. "Correct." She began to circle him slowly, like a predator examining prey from all angles. "And do you know what we test for?" "Strength, cunning, status, wealth, the ability to protect and provide." "Those are the old ways." She stopped behind him. He could feel her eyes on his back. "I am very old, human. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have buried 3 husbands and watched my children's children grow to lead fleets across the stars. And in all that time, I have learned that the old ways produced pretty fools who could fight but could not think." She moved to stand in front of him again. Her golden eyes seemed to look directly into his soul. "So I created new tests, better tests, tests that show not what a mate has but what a mate does when no one is watching." Felt a cold fear creep down his spine. "Your radiance." The Empress smiled. It was not a comforting expression. "You have been taking my tests for 3 months, and you did not even know it." She waved her hand, and holographic displays flickered to life all around them. Data scrolled across the screens. Videos played. Reports filled with text that moved too fast to read. "My intelligence services have been watching you since the moment my daughter first noticed you. Every move you made, every problem you solved, every choice you faced when you thought no one was paying attention." Stared at the screens, understanding slowly dawning. He was not here to be punished. He was here to learn his grade. The holographic displays surrounded like glowing ghosts. He saw himself in the images, working in the engine room, walking through corridors, sitting alone in the cafeteria. Moments he thought were private, recorded and analyzed by intelligence. The Empress gestured at one of the screens. It showed the station's reactor core. "6 weeks ago," she said, "this station nearly died. The main reactor began a cascade failure. If it had continued for 10 more minutes, the explosion would have destroyed everything within 50 kilometers. 3,000 beings would have died." Remembered that day. He had been eating lunch when the alarm started. Everyone had been running and screaming. The chief engineer had been frozen with fear, unable to think. "Your superiors could not solve the problem," the Empress continued. "The engineers on the station could not solve the problem. Their fancy equations and computer models failed them." She paused. "But you solved it." "I just noticed a pattern," said quietly. "The power fluctuations were following a rhythm, like a heartbeat. Once I saw that, the solution was obvious." "Obvious to you, not to anyone else." The Empress moved to another screen. "And you did not ask for recognition afterward. You did not tell your commanders that you were the one who saved the station. You simply returned to your regular duties as if nothing had happened." Said nothing. He had never been comfortable with praise. The Empress waved at another display. This one showed a meeting room filled with alien diplomats. 3 weeks later, the delegation from the collective insulted our ambassador, called her a faithless predator and a servant of chaos. The situation was moments away from violence. War between the Imperium and the would have killed millions. Remembered that too. He had been fixing a broken air vent in the ceiling above the meeting room. He had heard everything. "You wrote a note," the Empress said. "A suggestion. You passed it through 3 different people so that no one would know it came from you. The suggestion was simple. Remind the ambassador that the word he had used as an insult was actually a term of deep respect in an ancient dialect. Make him think he had accidentally praised our ambassador instead of insulting her." It had worked. The ambassador had been confused but pleased. He had accepted the explanation, and the tension had disappeared. No one had ever known where the idea came from. "A clever solution," the Empress said. "And again, you asked for nothing in return. You did not even tell anyone what you had done." She moved to a third screen. This one showed a small spacecraft tumbling through an asteroid field. Felt his heart clench. He knew what this was. 2 weeks ago, my daughter's personal shuttle suffered a navigation failure near the asteroid belt. The automatic systems tried to fly through a debris field that would have destroyed the ship in seconds. Our own pilots refused to enter the field to help her. They said it was too dangerous. They said there was no way to reach her in time. The Empress's voice grew colder. They were prepared to let my daughter die rather than risk their own lives. Watched the screen. He saw himself climbing into a small repair vessel. He saw himself flying into the debris field at speeds that should have killed him. He saw himself dodging rocks the size of buildings, using nothing but his instincts and his reflexes. He saw himself reaching shuttle and manually guiding it to safety. He had not thought about it at the time. He had not calculated the risks or considered the consequences. He had simply acted, because she was in danger and he could help. And afterward, the Empress said, her voice now barely a whisper, when my daughter offered to thank you with a private dinner, you refused. You said you needed to recalibrate some sensors. From beside the throne, made a small sound of frustration. Looked at the floor. The sensors really did need recalibrating. That is not the point. The Empress stepped closer to him. The point is that you risked your life to save my daughter. You flew into certain death without hesitation, and then you acted as if it meant nothing, as if saving a princess was simply part of your normal duties. She was directly in front of him now. Her golden eyes were intense and unblinking. You see, human, I no longer test for what a mate has. I test for what they do. I test for courage when there is no audience, for kindness when there is no reward, for sacrifice when there is no benefit. She tilted her head slightly. You have been passing my tests every single day, and you did not even know you were being tested. His mind was spinning. All this time he had been trying to prove that he was unworthy of, and instead he had been proving the opposite. Did I pass? He asked. His voice was barely audible. The Empress did not answer directly. Instead, she returned to her throne and sat down. Her expression changed. The predator was gone. In its place was something more complicated, something almost sad. You passed the tests I designed, she said. But now there is one final test, one that I did not create, one that the universe has placed before us. She gestured, and the holographic displays changed again. Now they showed star maps, fleet positions, military data that had no security clearance to see. What I am about to tell you is known to only a handful of beings in the galaxy, the Empress said. The hegemony of Rust is preparing for war. They are building a fleet in secret, and in less than 1 month they will attack. Felt ice in his veins. The hegemony of Rust was one of the most aggressive species in the known galaxy. They had fought the Imperium twice in the last century. Both times, millions had died. They are not attacking us, the Empress continued. Not this time. They have found an easier target, a new species, a weak species, a species that has been in space for only 40 years and does not know how to defend itself properly. The display zoomed in on a single planet, a world covered in green forests and blue oceans, a human colony. 442b, population 80,000. Sister lived there, her husband, their 2 children. The hegemony will arrive at 442b in 23 days, the Empress said. They will destroy the colony and kill everyone on the planet. Your government does not know this is coming. Your military is not prepared. Could not breathe, could not think. 80,000 people, his family. Why are you telling me this? He managed to say. The Empress leaned forward. Because you have a choice to make, and how you choose will determine everything. The holographic displays shifted one more time. 2 paths appeared before him, 2 futures. Your final test, the Empress said, is not about courage or kindness or sacrifice. It is about what kind of human you truly are. Stared at the 2 paths, knowing that whatever he chose next would change his life forever. The throne room was silent. Stood before the holographic displays, staring at the 2 paths laid out before him. The Empress watched from her throne of black crystal, stood frozen beside her mother, her golden eyes wide with fear. Your first option, the Empress said, is simple. I will give you everything. All of our intelligence about the hegemony attack, fleet positions, attack timelines, enough information for your people to prepare a defense or evacuate the colony. In exchange, you will marry my daughter, publicly, immediately. You will become a prince of the Imperium. Listened, his heart pounding. This will cause chaos, the Empress continued. Some species will see it as an alliance between humans and others will see it as an insult to both our kinds. There will be political storms that last for decades, but your colony will survive. Your family will live. She paused for a moment before continuing. Your second option is also simple. You walk away, return to your duties, pretend this conversation never happened. The colony falls. 80,000 humans die, but there are no diplomatic complications, no political chaos. Humanity learns a harsh lesson about the dangers of the galaxy and they grow stronger because of it. She glanced at her daughter. And will recover from her disappointment, eventually. Looked at the two paths on the holographic display. Option 1 glowed blue. Option 2 glowed red. Two choices, two futures. He thought about his sister, about her husband and their children, about the 80,000 people living their lives on 442B, completely unaware that death was coming for them. He thought about how she had chased him for 3 months, about how much he wanted to be with her, about how afraid he had been of ruining her life. And he thought about the trap. "That's not a choice," he said quietly. "That's a trap." The Empress raised one silver eyebrow. "Explain." "If I take option 1, I save my family, but I look like someone who sold himself for political advantage. A human who married a princess to save his own people. People will always wonder if I actually love or if I just used her." He took a breath. "If I take option 2, I'm a coward who let 80,000 people die because I was afraid of commitment. Either way, I lose." He looked directly at the Empress. Her golden eyes met his without blinking. "You're testing me again," said. "You want to see if I'll make the selfish choice or the convenient choice. You want to know what I'm really made of." The Empress said nothing. She simply waited. Something changed inside. The fear that had been gripping his heart began to transform. It became something hotter, something stronger. It became anger. "Well, here's the thing, your radiance." He straightened his back and lifted his chin. "You've been watching me for 3 months, but you missed something important." He took a step forward. The Imperial guards tensed, their claws extending. But the Empress raised one hand and they stopped. "I didn't avoid your daughter because I was afraid of scandal," said. "I didn't run away because I was worried about politics. I avoided her because I knew I wasn't worthy of her. I knew that a princess deserved someone better than a maintenance worker who fixes broken machines and crawls through dirty tunnels." He took another step forward. "I didn't feel like I had any right to love her. I didn't feel like I had earned it. So I stayed away because I thought that was the honorable thing to do." His voice grew stronger. "But now you tell me that I've been passing tests I didn't know existed. You tell me that every time I helped someone without asking for credit, every time I solved a problem without seeking praise, every time I risked my life for others without expecting a reward, I was proving myself worthy in your eyes." He was close to the throne now, closer than any commoner should ever stand. "And now you're asking me to choose between the woman I love and 80,000 innocent people." He shook his head. "No, I refuse. I reject both options." The Empress leaned forward. "You cannot simply reject." "Option 3, said. "I take your intelligence, all of it. I transmit it to human military command through back channels. I'll say I hacked a hegemony database. I'll say I made a lucky guess. I'll say whatever I need to say to explain how I got the information. Humanity prepares for the attack. Your Senate never knows you were involved. There's no diplomatic incident, no political chaos." He turned to look at. She was staring at him with an expression he had never seen before. Wonder, hope, maybe love. "And then I figure out what we are to each other in our own time," he continued. "Without politics, without pressure, without anyone forcing us into anything, like normal people." He turned back to the Empress. "I take all the risk. If anyone finds out where the intelligence came from, I'll be charged with espionage. I might be executed, but your empire stays clean. Humanity gets saved. and your daughter gets to make her own choice about whether she actually wants to be with me, not because I saved her people, but because she genuinely loves me." The throne room was completely silent. Even the flames in the bronze bowls seemed to stop flickering. The Empress studied for a long moment. Her expression was impossible to read. "You would lie to protect us," she said finally. "You would take all the risk on yourself. You would possibly die for this plan." "Yes." "Why?" Smiled. It was a tired smile, but genuine. "Because that's what humans do, your radiance. When the choice is between ourselves and others, we choose others. When the system gives us bad options, we make new options. When the universe tells us something is impossible, we do it anyway." He shrugged. "It's kind of our thing." The Empress was silent for a very long time. Then slowly, she rose from her throne. She descended the steps until she stood directly in front of. She was much shorter than him. She had to look up to meet his eyes, but somehow she still seemed taller. "My intelligence services have been watching humans for 40 years, she said softly. "We have studied your history, your wars, your achievements, your failures. We have tried to understand what makes your species different from all the others in the galaxy." She reached out and placed one small hand on his chest, directly over his heart. "Now I understand," she said. "It is not your technology, it is not your strength, it is not your intelligence." She looked up at him with those ancient golden eyes. "It is your stubborn refusal to accept the world as it is, your insistence on making it better, no matter the cost to yourselves." She stepped back and returned to her throne. "Very well, option 3 it is." She gestured, and a data crystal appeared floating in the air before him. "Take the intelligence, save your people, and see my daughter when you are ready, not before." Took the crystal. It felt warm in his hand. "Thank you, your radiance." The Empress waved dismissively. "Do not thank me yet. If you fail, if anyone discovers the truth, I will deny everything. You will face your fate alone." "I understand." And her voice stopped him as he turned to leave. "If you break my daughter's heart after all this, I will have you executed." Slowly. Despite everything, almost laughed. "That seems fair." He walked out of the throne room, the data crystal clutched tightly in his hand. He had work to do. The transmission went out at 3 o'clock in the morning, station time. Sat alone in a small maintenance room, using equipment he had modified himself. The signal bounced through 17 different relay points before reaching its destination. Each relay was in a different star system. Each one used a different encryption method. If anyone tried to trace the message back to its source, they would find nothing. The message itself was simple. It contained the location of the hegemony fleet, the exact time of the planned attack, the defensive weaknesses of their ships, everything that human command would need to prepare a defense of 442B. Had added a note claiming he had obtained the information by hacking a hegemony communications satellite. It was a lie, but a believable one. He had always been good with computers. After the transmission was complete, he destroyed the equipment, melted it down until there was nothing left but slag. Then he cleaned up the room until it looked like nothing had ever happened there. He told no one what he had done, not his friends, not his commanders, not even. 3 weeks passed, went back to his regular duties. He fixed broken machines. He maintained the station systems. He ate meals alone in the cafeteria and slept poorly at night. Every day he waited for news. Every day he wondered if his message had arrived, if anyone had believed it, if his family was preparing for the attack or still living their normal lives, unaware of the danger coming for them. And every day, he avoided looking at the news reports from the colony worlds. Kept her distance. He saw her sometimes in corridors or across crowded rooms. She would look at him with those golden eyes and he would look back at her and neither of them would say anything. They were waiting, both of them, waiting to see if his gamble would work. On the 23rd day, the news arrived. was in a repair bay when it happened. He was working on a broken atmospheric processor, his hands covered in grease, his mind focused on the task in front of him. The wall screen was playing a news broadcast in the background, but he was not paying attention. Then the words caught his ear. Breaking news from the system. The hegemony of Rust launched a surprise attack on the human colony of 442b earlier today. However, in a shocking development, the human Third Fleet was waiting for them. Stopped working, his hands fell to his sides, he turned to face the screen. The battle lasted approximately 6 hours, the newsreader continued. The hegemony fleet consisted of 47 warships. Human forces intercepted them at the edge of the system and engaged in what military analysts are calling the most decisive human victory in interstellar history. The screen showed images of the battle, human ships moving in formation, hegemony vessels exploding in brilliant flashes of light, the colony planet safe and whole in the background. The hegemony lost 23 ships in the engagement. Human forces report 4 ships destroyed, with minimal casualties. The colony of 442b is secure, and its 80,000 residents are unharmed. Sat down on the floor. His legs would not hold him anymore. Military officials have not revealed how they received advance warning of the attack, but sources indicate that intelligence was received from an anonymous source approximately 3 weeks ago. The identity of this source remains unknown. The broadcast continued but was no longer listening. He was crying. Tears rolled down his face and dripped onto his dirty uniform. His sister was alive. Her family was alive. 80,000 people would see tomorrow because of something he had done. He had never felt so relieved in his entire life. The door to the repair bay opened. Did not look up. He was too overwhelmed to care who saw him crying. Soft footsteps approached. A familiar scent reached his nose, flowers and something warm and comforting. Sat down beside him on the floor. She did not say anything. She simply sat there, close enough that her fur brushed against his arm, and watched the celebration on the screen. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The news broadcast showed people cheering on 442b. It showed politicians making speeches about human strength and determination. It showed military leaders accepting praise for their brilliant defense. No one mentioned, no one knew his name, and that was exactly how he wanted it. "My mother wants me to tell you something," said eventually. Wiped his face with the back of his hand. "What?" "She says you're still not worthy of me." He almost laughed. "I know. But she also says that might be a human trait." His tail curled around his wrist, warm and soft. "She says humans are never worthy of things. They never feel like they have earned what they have, but they do those things anyway. They save people anyway. They love anyway." She paused. "She says it is very annoying and also very admirable." Did laugh this time. It came out broken and wet, but it was real. "She also says that if you break my heart, she will have you executed." His voice was calm. "But she will make it quick, because she respects you now." "That's kind of sweet, in a terrifying way." That his mother leaned her head against his shoulder. Her fur was soft against his cheek. "So, now that you are done being noble and self-sacrificing and impossible, would you like to have dinner with me?" Looked at her. Really looked at her, for the first time without fear or guilt or political calculations getting in the way. She was beautiful, that was still true, but now he saw other things too. He saw patience in her eyes. He saw strength in the way she held herself. He saw someone who had chased a human engineer for 3 months and refused to give up on him, even when he kept hiding in maintenance shafts. She deserved someone worthy of her. And maybe, just maybe, he was starting to believe that he could become that person. Not because of his status or his wealth or his family name, but because of what he did when no one was watching, because of the choices he made when no one else would know. "Yeah," he said, "I'd like that." smiled. It was the most beautiful smile he had ever seen. Outside the repair bay, outside the station, the galaxy continued to spin. Stars burned and planets turned and empires rose and fell, just as they always had. Humanity was still new to this vast universe, still small, still considered unworthy by every traditional measure. But they were learning, they were growing, and sometimes in small ways that no one else noticed, they were proving that worth had nothing to do with status or power or ancient bloodlines. Worth was measured by what you did when the choice was hard, by who you helped when no one was looking, by how much of yourself you were willing to sacrifice for others. Still had a lot to learn about being part of an interstellar community. He still had a lot to prove to the Imperium and to himself. The road ahead would be long and difficult, full of challenges he could not yet imagine. But as hand found his, as her fingers intertwined with his own, he realized something important. He was not walking that road alone anymore. And that made all the difference. The future was uncertain. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but for the first time in a long time was looking forward to seeing what came next. Because humans might not be the strongest species in the galaxy. They might not be the oldest or the most powerful, but they had something else, something that could not be measured or calculated. They had stubbornness, they had hope, and they had an absolute refusal to give up, no matter how impossible the odds seemed. In the end, that was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything.